Hello and welcome, Pokemon fans. There are those who call me Bard Breaker, and it's time for another Pokemon Challenge run. Last time on Bard Breaker Z, we successfully played through Pokemon Emerald with just a Skarmory, and while that was an easy-looking run on the surface, we had some good moments of challenge to it as well, especially towards the end. But with that in the past, let's go ahead and look forward and do another multi-team-up run this time. Today we're going to ask and answer the question, can I beat Pokemon Yellow without learning any new moves? So let's just dive right in and explain how this works. See this? This is Pikachu's moveset. Since our starter Pikachu will start at level 5, we'll know Thunder Shock and Growl right out of the gate, and that's it. So, since we aren't going to be using any new moves, those are the only two moves I can use for the duration of the run with Pikachu. At least we have a nice move to give us the same type attack bonus out of the gate. That's something at least. I think you can extrapolate the core of this run from here though, so let's go over the rules so we can get this show on the road. As far as Pokemon are concerned, I can acquire and use as many and whichever Pokemon I see fit. The gimmick of this run though is I'm only allowed to use the moves those Pokemon have when I acquire them. This means I may actually have to do some research on what's available and when they learn certain moves so as to maximize our potential. If the Pokemon have empty move slots when I catch them, I can't stop them from learning new moves by level up, I just won't be allowed to select those moves in battle. Similarly, I'll need to teach HMs for story progression outside of battle, but I also won't be allowed to select those attacks in battle either. As usual, I will also not be using items in battle. This is Gen 1, so there are no held items yet, but items outside of battle will be allowed. And finally, no cheats, glitches, or exploits. I don't even have to use the randomizer this time. This is just going to be a clean ROM of yellow. Let's do this. Oh, and also no legendaries. I can't forget that one. So to start the run off, we're stopped by the local wildlife expert, Professor Tree, who is desperate to make sure that we don't run off and encounter any local wildlife until we've enslaved some of our own. We're given a Pikachu for our adventure, who we nickname Wat Cobra. Yep, it's gonna be a Yu-Gi-Oh episode apparently. From there, it's time for an immediate fight against our rival Tim. There's not exactly a lot of strategy here, we just have to keep using Thunder Shock over and over again. We get a critical hit right out of the gate, which is always nice to see, but in Gen 1, their likelihood is based on your base speed, so in Pikachu's case, we have about a 17.5% chance to land a crit every time we land a move. A few Thunder Shocks later though, and we emerge victorious and learn the move Tail Whip. But remember, this is a no new moves run, so all we can use is Thunder Shock and Growl. So with that, it's time to progress through the early game, and we're gonna need to catch some more Pokemon, since obviously Thunder Shock is not gonna let us get past Brock. And no, I'm not going to be allowed to use Struggle in this run either. So my solution here is to go catch some Spearow west of Viridian City. At any level, they'll know Peck, and while it's going to be resisted by his rock types, it is still a stab move, and it will be our best bet to deal with Brock with what we have available. There are Mankeys here as well, but at this level, they don't start with any fighting moves, so our best bet is to try the Spearows. I catch 3 just to make sure we have enough. I nickname them Elemental Hero Avion, Harpy Lady, and Sky Scout. We spent some time leveling them up in Viridian Forest, as it's a great place to do so with our flying move Peck against the bug types that are prevalent here. Once we get the team up to level 12, I give Brock a try just to see where we stand. Perhaps somewhat surprisingly, I actually leave Wat Cobra the Pikachu out at the front of the party. It won't be able to use Thunder Shock against Brock since his Pokemon are both ground type and immune to electricity, but we do know Growl, which will actually reduce Brock's tackling power. After we get our 6 Growls in place for maximum reduction, it's time to swap into one of our Spearows and just start pecking down the Geodude. Again, not much strategy here other than what we've already done, so it's just a matter of pecking down the Geodude before we get tackled too much, though the Growls have really weakened the damage that Geodude is able to inflict. It's a slow fight, but eventually we bring the Geodude down and out next is his Onix. So we swap back into Pikachu for the same strategy of using 6 Growls to open the fight. After we get 6 Growls in place, I swap back into Spearow for more pecker down action. And while that actually sounds straightforward enough, I can't just do autopilot here. Onix knows Bide, a move that basically has the Pokemon sit idle for 2 to 3 turns, but then unleashes double the damage that it took back. So I have to pay attention, and whenever Brock goes for Bide, swap onto Spearow's own Growl. It's not going to reduce his attack anymore, but it also is not going to inflict any damage and thus charge up his Bide. It's a slow and tedious process of paying attention to whether Brock is in a 2 or 3 turn Bide, but eventually we're able to bring down his Rock Snake with a Pokemon to spare to boot, and we've won our first gym badge of the run. East of town, there are a lot of trainers which serve as a great proving ground for experience gain. We won't be using these Spearows for the entire run, but until we get some more teammates, they're going to be our primary fighting force. Before I enter Mount Moon though, along Route 3, I stop and catch a Mankey. I'd nickname it Boxer. It's also a Yu-Gi-Oh card, to expand our team a bit. Unlike the ones west of Viridian City, here they are level 9, so they know Low Kick, which will give us much needed fighting power to deal with more rock Pokemon. After a brief stop to heal up, we progress into Mount Moon itself. There's nothing here too difficult, and we make our way through to the fossil, which I take of the dome variety, but ask me anyway since it boosts engagement. And we make our way into Cerulean City. I decide to try my hand at Misty in the water gym right away, given that Watt Cobra does have the type advantage, and though Staryu is easy enough thanks to a timely critical hit, I just don't stand a chance against Starmie at all. We're gonna need to level up a bit as she just plows straight through our team with that thing. Alright, leveling it is. Or at least adventuring it is, as we decide to try a rival north of town instead. His Pidgeotto is out first and goes down to a couple of quick Thunder Shocks. Up next is a Sandshrew, so I swap off to Mankey to low kick and scratch it down. After that, Rattata and Eevee are all that's left, and they aren't too much of an issue. Eevee is still withstanding our Thunder Shocks pretty well, but with enough of them we manage to paralyze it towards the end, which slows it down and lets us walk away victorious. This isn't going to get us incredibly far, but it will allow for some progress in the immediate future at least. Once I make my way north up Nugget Bridge, I recruit the next member of our team. This lonely bastard up here is just giving his Charmander away for free. For free! So we pick up our little fire lizard and nickname it this thing. Still a Yu-Gi-Oh card, and now we have some more type coverage for our team. Ember's not a great move, but it still gets stab, and it will give us more coverage at least. Although, now that I think about it, Flying actually covers the same types that Fire does in Gen 1. Bug and Grass. Maybe we won't be using Charmander after all. In the same ballpark though, we run across a Bellsprout here at level 14. At this level, they will know Vine Whip, and this will give us some solid options as well moving forward. I nickname it Glow Up Bulb, and proceed on to Bill's house, where we find not quite a man, not quite a mon, yet a lovable, huggable amalgamation who really should just lay off the mad science experiments. He gives us the SS ticket in exchange for our signature on a non-disclosure agreement, and away we go. We still have Misty to deal with though, so let's see if we can do that. I throw Glow Up Bulb out first to try and deal with the Staryu. Our levels are pretty close, but Vine Whip is enough to do the job, and she falls victim to the best plant tuner in Yu-Gi-Oh! The best plant in Pokemon, and goes down. Starmie is out next though, and I know we won't even get a hit off, so I just swap over to Watt Cobra to use Thunder Shock. We're not doing as much as I'd hope, but we get paralysis on our second hit, and a crit on our third to bring down the Starmie, and that opens the game up a lot for us. Nice. Now I can head down to Vermilion City. Along the way, I use my Experience Points Magic card to evolve my Spearow into a Fearow. Alright! Now Elemental Hero Avion is at its true form! So I throw down a face down and call it a turn, Cyrus! Anyway, the first thing I do at this point, once I get to Vermilion City, is to make an immediate visit to Diglett's cave. A couple of encounters in, and I get myself a level 19 Diglett. At level 19, Diglett knows Dig, a 2-turn ground-type move that is beyond overpowered in Gen 1. Not only does it also get a stab move when used on Diglett, it's 100% accurate and has 100 base power here in Gen 1, basically making it a 2-turn Earthquake. This will be an absolute must for us moving forward and will really help us overpower stuff that's giving us trouble. And it'll offer us some much-needed type coverage against electric and poison types. I nickname our Diglett, Digbeak, because that's also apparently a Yu-Gi-Oh card, and away we go. The next task here is for some outdoor boating extravaganza as we move on to the SSN for some shenanigans. As per usual, I clear out anything and everything of value and move on to our rival Tim. Pidgeotto is out first, but doesn't match up to Watt Cobra's Thunder Shocks and goes down. Rattata's next, and we swap into Boxer to low kick it away. Sandshrew is next, but goes down to a couple of Vine Whips from Glow Up Bulb. Lastly, his Eevee is out, but I swap back to Boxer for the quick knockout and win the fight. After that, we get to work massaging the Sea Captain, who surrenders the HM for cut while delirious from bliss, and that allows us to finally move on to Lieutenant Surge's gym. Though before we do, we have to pick up something for cut to get in, and to continue our lineage, so I go catch another Diglett, nickname it Snipticus the 48th, well may they cut, and then make our way to the gym. We actually complete the trash can puzzle in record time. Seriously, I get it on literally 2 consecutive cans, and it's on to Lieutenant Surge. Or if you're the breath, Lieutenant Surge? Why, Brits? There's no F in this word. Since Yellow is supposed to mirror the anime more, he only has a Raichu to deal with. We nearly one-shot him with Dig, but he just wastes his turn and we go for a scratch to finish him off for the win. And with that, we're in business and have secured another badge. And now that that's in tow, it's time to head back to Cerulean City and east towards Rock Tunnel. But it's darker than shit in here, so we need to catch something to use Flash. Watt Cobra can do it, but like usual, we have a lineage to continue, so I catch a Drowsy for Flash, nickname it Flashelius the 48th, long may they shine, and then start the trek through the cave. The overall adventure through Rock Tunnel is mostly uneventful, and we make our way out through Lavender Tower and get to Celadon City. I decide to make an immediate run at Erica, the Grass Gym Leader. We have the type advantage with Fearow, but I think Erica might actually have the level advantage on us, and that's going to make things interesting. We actually do surprisingly less damage than I thought we would with our Peck against the Tangela, and that really slows down the wheels of progress. Eventually, we whittle it down though, and out comes her Weepinbell. Her out-leveling us is actually putting us at more of a disadvantage than I was predicting. I eventually swapped to Dugtrio to try and get the type advantage with Dig, though we miss one-shotting it as it brings us down with Razor Leaf. Gloom causes us some trouble though, as it's got Petal Dance up its sleeve. Eventually we just get our own Weepinbell left to try and bring this home. I try for Growth and Vine Whip, but that combo's not doing much for us, though it is doing enough to put us within wrapping range. So with that in mind, as I walk through Celadon in search of my badge, I kick Erica's ass right down to her we just barely get in enough wraps to finish the fight by the skin of our teeth and secure our next win. After the win, I head for the department store and pick up a Leaf Stone to evolve our Glow-Up Bulb into my favorite Pokemon, Victory Bell. And now it's time to go clear Team Rocket out of the local casino club. Team Rocket, as usual, are no obstacle whatsoever, and all we have to deal with Team Rocket leader and textbook example of pointless filler material is Giovanni. But he's an easy one-shot sweep with our Dig. Onix and Rhyhorn are no problem at all with the super effective damage, and the Persian is a critical hit one-shot for a flawless victory. I get the Sylph Scope for my trouble, and we can make our way back to Lavender Tower. And it's time for our next rival fight against Tower Tim. Pidgeotto is out first, and we go with our Watt Cobra for Thunder Shock type advantage. Pidgeotto ultimately never touches us though, and we're able to electrocute the bird down easily enough. Magnemite is next, so it's a quick swap to Dugtrio for a quick one-shot with Dig. Shelter is out next, so I move into Victory Bell for a one-shot with Vine Whip. Sandshrew is next, but goes down just as quickly with another Vine Whip. Last out is Eevee, so I stay in with Victory Bell, completely forgetting about Boxer, and after a few Vine Whips, I secure the win and can now progress up the tower. Clearing out all the old biddies of Ghost of their long-lost knitting partners proves to be as easy as pie, and we're quickly able to dispatch Team Rocket and make quick work of rescuing Mr. Fuji, who gives us the Poke-Flute for the trouble. The first thing I do with our newfangled instrument is wake up a Snorlax and catch it. I nickname it Niwatori in honor of this lazy sleeping chicken card in pretty much the same pose. This will give us a pretty high HP Pokemon with a strong same type attack bonus move and Headbutt to use. We're probably going to be boxing our Boxer to do it since we really don't need Low Kick anymore, but we can always get them back out again if we really need it. I decide to keep heading southwest towards Fuchsia City and go for the Safari Zone. Once here I find the Golden Teeth that will exchange for Strength, the HM for Surf, and I also decide to catch a Kangaskhan on the way out. Because it spawned while I was walking, and why not at least try for it? I never actually got one of these on my Game Boy cartridges as a kid. I nickname it Des Kangaroo in honor of the slightly differently spelled Des Kangaroo from Yu-Gi-Oh! I doubt we're going to use it over Snorlax, but we have options. And at this level it'll have Comet Punch as well as Bite. And also Rage, but that's useless in Gen 1 due to a bug. So it's another option in the box if we really want it. After that I decide to go ahead and take a crack at local Chemical Warfare Ambassador and Fuchsia City Gym Leader Koga. Unfortunately though, we're just a bit too low level here. He doesn't actually have his usual poison team. Instead, to be more in line with the anime, he has 3 Venonats and a Venomoth, which makes not a lot of sense considering in the show he only had 1 and a Golbat, but it is what it is. Ultimately though, his Venomoth is level 50, and we're quite a bit lower than that. We will have the type advantage on his team with Elemental Hero Avion and Dig Beak, but we just can't quite get there yet. This isn't going to be difficult at all, we're just going to need some more levels to keep us in the fight. And there's plenty left in this game we can do, so let's go tackle that and come back. So the other major task we can do is go clear Team Rocket out of the Silphco building. They've taken it over for, okay, do they actually say? I don't ever pay attention to the prompts, I just button mash through them. Along the way up the building, we find Rival Fivel, as the venerable J-Rose would say, and it's time for a showdown. I swap into Victory Bell to deal with the Sand Slash as it keeps trying to hit me for poison stings. Cloister is out next, so I stay in and easily dispatch it with more Vine Whips. Magneton is next, so I swap to Dugtrio for a quick Dig dispatch. Kadabra is next, so it's Snorlax for the easy Headbutt knockout, and back to Dugtrio for another easy knockout on the Flareon for a very easy Rival Fivel encounter. Didn't even break a sweat. After the Rival Fivel encounter, it's time for another mandatory fight against useless boss filler Giovanni. Don't have any troubles here either though, we just have the same type advantage across the board with his team, so there's not an obstacle here, just more useless filler to pad these games. Fortunately, unlike in later games, this is pretty much it. After defeating Giovanni here, the filler is gone and we can make real progress again. We're gonna need to surf now, so along the way out of Silphco, I stop and pick up this free Lapras, nickname it Aquades the 48th, Long Way to Swim, and while we're here in town, I decide to try Sabrina in the Psychic Gym. Along the way, I actually use Elemental Hero Avion to clear out the Fighting Dojo next door, which gets us our prize. A Hitmonchan for Strength later, nicknaming it Bicepticus the 48th, Long May They Lift. Clearing out the trainers doesn't prove to be all that difficult, and we find ourselves staring down Sabrina and her team made up of the Abra evolution line. I dispatch Abra and Kadabra with Snorlax Headbutts lickety-split, but the Alakazam makes things a bit interesting with its big Psychic and some Reflects, which chunk our attack power. It also knows Recover, which allows it to stay a bit healthy. Ultimately though, after a few Headbutts, I land a critical hit which bypasses all of those Reflects and secures our next badge for our jolly old adventure here. Speaking of next badges, it's time to fly back to Fuchsia City and try our hand at Koga once again. Avion versus the Venonats, and we dispatch the first with a crit one-shot. His next comes out and also goes down to a crit one-shot. The third comes out and survives a regular peck, lands a Toxic, and goes down to another. Fun note, in Gen 1 you don't take poison damage if you knock out a Pokemon, so it's on to Venomoth who survives a peck, uses an X attack, and then goes down to another. Also a crit, but it wouldn't have mattered. And that was a crit machine for that fight. Wow, I will take it. So now we have 2 gyms left, Blaine and Giovanni, but we're actually not going to do either just yet. We're actually going to go somewhere I virtually never go in these runs. I'm going to go visit the Seafoam Islands. Yes, I know Blaine moves there in the Johto games, but we're talking about the Kanto ones here. And this is where we're going to pick up the final piece of our puzzle, which should help us get through the rest of the run pretty easily. Once I get to the Seafoam Islands, I head straight for the bottom floor and start walking around hunting. At a 5% encounter rate, they're not common, but eventually I find a Dugong at level 30. These guys have Aurora Beam at this level, which is a 65 base power Ice-type move that will get a same type attack bonus when used by Dugong. See why I wanted to catch one of these guys? This should make our fight with Lance a breeze. It also has Headbutt and Growl, but Aurora Beam. I eventually whittle it down, catch it, and nickname it Orichalcos, after the seal of Orichalcos, and it's a Dugong, so it's the evolved form of seal. Get it? Yeah, okay, I'll show myself out. So from there, it's a quick surf over to Cinnabar Island, and the next gym leader is local hothead Blaine. While I tried to chip away at the Ninetales with Dugong just to see what it could do, it didn't last long before I have to swap to Dugtrio. We're actually somehow faster than the Rapidash, which is out-leveling us, but we bring it down quickly, and even the Arcanine doesn't pose much of a problem to our Dig. Gotta love souped-up Dig here in Gen 1. And with that badge in the book, we can now make our way to the final gym in Kanto. It's time for the primarily ground gym leader, Giovanni. Dugtrio is out first and hits our Victory Bell very hard with Earthquake, but instead of then finishing the fight, it keeps trying to hit us with Sand Attack over and over. This allows us to get off the Vine Whips we need to bring it down. Persian is out next, so I swap into Fearow to try and bring it down, but we get hit hard with the Fury Swipes and down we go, having not done enough to finish the cat. Snorlax comes out though to headbutt the cat down and move things along. Nidoqueen is out, so I swap to Dugong for some Aurora Beam, but just get double kicked into the ground. Nidoking is next, so I swap into Dugtrio to hit it hard with Dig. Fortunately, we're in Gen 1 because while we're underground, Nidoking used Earthquake, which starting in Gen 2 can hit you while underground and will inflict double damage. Fortunately though, we're able to bring down the Nidoking. Last out is Rhydon, which also goes down to some Dig action, and we've secured the 8th and final badge of our adventure, and it's time to press to the Elite Four. Well, one last rival fight stands in our way. West of town, we're stopped by the rival Tim once again. Sandslash is first, and I thought it would be a bird, but it's not, so I waste a turn swapping to Glow Up Bulb, but Sandslash just sits there with Poison Sting, and we're able to Vine Whip it down. Exegutor's next, so I swap to Elemental Hero Avion to deal with the grass type with a couple of pecks. Tim swaps to Cloister at this point, so I go for Watt Cobra for some electrical damage, but ultimately we wind up confused and hitting ourselves and locked into a stun stall with Clamp, and we're taken out. So Glow Up Bulb is back out to finish the fight. Magneton is next, so I swap into Digbeak to finish it off with a super effective Dig. I stay in to deal with the Paper Mache Kadabra with a Dig, and finally the Flareon is also weak to Dig, so it's a 3-way sweep of Dugtrio here at the end. That finishes the fight, secures us the win, and allows us to proceed through Victory Road to the Elite Four. So once we navigate through Victory Road, we arrive at the Elite Four, and this is our team and its levels. As you can see, our highest level is Dugtrio at level 48, and the lowest is Dugong all the way at level 32. Considering the Elite Four will have teams in the mid to high 50s, this just is not going to work, I can tell you right now. So we're going to need to spend some significant time grinding to bring this team up to code. Finally, after several hours of grinding and a Windows update later, we're ready to make our first attempt at the Elite Four with our entire squad up at level 50. So after I accidentally ruined the first attempt by clicking a new move, let's try this again. Dugong is out first, so we move Pikachu to the front of the party for Thunder Shocks. Not a great move, but it's what we've got. And for some reason, the Dugong just never does damage to us. I guess Lorelei thought not doing damage was a viable strategy, but we don't have the same moral compass, and we plunge our Thunder Shock straight into the Dugong's cold heart for the knockout. Cloister's out next, so I stay in for the type advantage but get locked into a stun lock with Clamp again and taken out. I swap to Victory Bell and easily finish the fight with Vine Whip. Slowbro's out next, so I stay in with Victory Bell and just set about using Vine Whips. We have to hustle though, as not only can Slowbro hit hard, but it can buff its special with Amnesia. I finish the fight and Lapras is out next. We're not doing a lot of damage though, so I take a gamble and try to waste a turn using Growth to boost our output. Yes, technically this will also boost all our attack stats thanks to the badge boost glitch, J-Rose, but we wind up hit with Blizzard anyway and that just takes us down, so it doesn't really matter in the end. Snorlax is out to finish the fight with a headbutt though, and outlasts his Jinx, who takes big damage from one, puts us to sleep with Lovely Kiss, and then faints after wake back up to finish the fight with another headbutt. Up next is fighting trainer Bruno. His Onix is out first, so probably to no one's great surprise, we have Glow Up Bulb at the head of the line to one-shot it with a quad-effective Vine Whip. Hitmonchan is next on the docket, so we swap to Elemental Hero Avion, crit it with a peck, take marginal damage from an Ice Punch, and finish it with another peck. Hitmonlee tries its foot next, but goes down to a single critical hit peck without landing a hit. Another Onix is next, so it's back to Victory Bell for another one-shot quad-effective Vine Whip. Last out is Machamp, so we swap back to Fearow for pecks again. This time though, we don't get so lucky. Bruno starts using X Defense, weakening our peck, and thus it hits hard with a crit Karate Chop and a submission to bring us down. I swap to Nidotori the Snorlax to finish the fight, but not before Bruno runs the clock down a bit with another X Defend, forcing us to use more headbutts to finish him off. After healing up, reviving up, we move on to Ghost Trainer Agatha. And while normally she can be a bit of a pickle, in this one we are fortunate to be playing in Gen 1, oddly enough. Digbeak the Dugtrio is to the front of the line for its Dig, which remember is 100 base power in this gen, which is strong as Earthquake, and all of her team are part poison, even the ghosts for some reason. But because this is Gen 1, there are no abilities like Levitate to worry about, so ground moves can hit her ghosts. With that, she's an easy sweep with Digquake. The only spot of remote bother was the Golbat, which is immune to ground moves, so we just hit it with a few Thunder Shocks from our Watt Cobra to finish it off and win the day. And with that, we're 75% of the way there, and we can progress on to Dragon Master Lance. Pikachu makes surprisingly slow work of the Gyarados. It's quad weak to electric moves, yet it still takes 3 Thunder Shocks to go down. And Dragonair is a problem for our Dugong, as it paralyzes us with Thunder Wave. I bring it down, but for safety I swap to Dugtrio just to brute force the next one, which of course knows Bubble Beam and hits us hard with that too. I eventually bring it down with a couple of digs, and I run into big trouble with Aerodactyl, and it just starts to mop the floor with our team. I'm forced to bring Dugong back in the end, and I break through Paralysis to bring it down, but Dragonite is another story, and though it looks like we're hanging in with Headbutt, Dragonite lands a crit 1 to knock out our Snorlax. Alright, let's give this one another go. And Lance honestly takes more tries than I thought he would going in. We're not locked out here, and this wasn't too ungodly long, but I thought with Dugong's Aurora Beam we just waltz over Lance, but it's not meant to be. Where in the previous fight against Agatha I was praising Gen 1 for not having abilities, here in the fight against Lance I'm hating it for 2 big reasons. Number 1, in Gen 1 if you knock out a Pokemon with Hyper Beam, you don't have to recharge on your next turn. Great when you do it, terrible when it's done to you. And number 2, since in Gen 1 critical hits are based on your base speed, and Aerodactyl is in a 3-way tie with Jolteon and Mewtwo for 2nd place behind Electrode with 130 base speed, it will just crit 25% of the time over and over, and sure enough, it's a beastly crit machine. And really, that's the biggest obstacle. Once I get a run where I can get past the Aerodactyl with Snorlax more or less intact, the Dragonite isn't really that hard. I actually still have Victory Bell left, so I try to stun lock it a bit with Wrap, but I only inflict a wee bit of damage before being taken out with Fire Blast. Finally, it's Headbutt to the rescue, but we're slower than it though, so we don't get any flinch chances, but we have enough strength to beat over the Dragonite and get past his Blizzards to beat Lance and secure the win. With that, I revive our team, heal him up, top off any power points that need him, and head on to the final fight against the rival Tim. Sandslash is out first, so I have Victory Bell to the head of the line and set about using Vine Whip. For some reason, the Sandslash seems content to just keep trying to use Poison Sting. In any event, after a couple of Vine Whips, I bring it down. Alakazam is next, so I swap into Snorlax to take a Psybeam, but hit back hard with Headbutt for the win. Exeggutor is next, so I swap into Fearow for the type advantage with Peck, but it's a slow process and we don't finish it off quickly and we keep getting hit with Barrage. Eventually I bring it down though, and it's on to Magneton. The pure electric type though is no match for Dugtrio's Dig, and we quickly finish it off with a critical hit one-shot. Next out is Cloister, and I bring down the Pikachu to get some action, but Thunder Shock is really just a bad move, and I get knocked out before I can finish off the Cloister despite its poor special. At this point I realistically could have clean swapped into Victory Bell, but I wanted Dugong to get in a bit on this final action, so I swap into Dugong, and that actually proved to be a very bad idea, as we start chipping it down, but it just uses a full restore, and that's a problem for us. Eventually I do try for the unclean swap into Victory Bell to end this fight, but not only do I get hit with an Ice Beam, the AI chooses what to do retroactively after you make your move in Gen 1, but we get frozen, and in Gen 1 you can only thaw if you use a freeze heal or get hit with a fire move. So we're helpless and we go down. We don't have a lot of luck with Fearow, which also goes down, and even Snorlax doesn't get much done as we get locked into a clamp battle and we go down to a stun lock. We're stuck with Dugong now, but Headbutt's doing passable damage and we headbutt our way through the outer shell and knock it out. Last out is Flareon, so I swap back to Dugtrio and finish the fight with a one-shot dig, and boom, there it is. We defeat Tim, become the champion, get our team into the Hall of Fame, and the credits roll. And there you have it, folks. We've beaten Pokemon Yellow without learning any new moves, using only the moves our Pokemon had at the time we caught them. I know some other people have done this run before, but I think we had a bit of a different team, and I'm not sure that they did it in Yellow. In any case, I thought this was actually pretty fun, and we got to show off some cool Pokemon along the way, even if we didn't have a good pool of moves for them. So I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, give the video a like down below and let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Also, go ahead and leave any suggestions in the comments below for runs you'd like to see me do, or follow the link in the doobly-doo to the Bard Breaker Discord server. Till next video, guys, good luck, and go catch 'em all.